It's about time to do a flat Earth, simplified and summarised sort of presentation. Because this is something, it's like a new science that's growing with thousands a day looking at this. I've done a few hundred hours research and 10 to 15 articles on my site. And it's had thousands of viewers and readers, and no one can really debunk it. I also said about 7-8 years ago in my first book, which is free, that we're in an information war and in the age of deceit. What I've realised is a lot of people don't really know enough about the mainstream ball Earth model. People don't know how fast we spin. They don't know when the moon's coming up, what phase the moon's in. A lot of people don't know what a solstice is. So a lot of people just sort of have this image on the left of the ball Earth. This image on the right is starting to gain momentum, and a lot of good information backs it up. So I just want to go through some of the key points for anyone new to this information, and later do a bit of theorising and speculation as well. So as Nietzsche once said, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. That's often the case with a lot of new information. Around the 1400s, a lot of people were starting to think about the ball Earth due to some astronomers. And then Newton came along in the late 1400s with his gravity book that he didn't really complete. It was very fat and thick, and this man's still taught to this day. He's taught as being an academic scientist, but really he was an occultist, an alchemist, and a magician. It's kind of strange how the universities don't teach much about Newton the man, especially when they're hinging massive belief systems upon him. He's also had a lot of links to Freemasonry, which came out of the Knights Templar pretty much in the 1300s. So Newton's a guy that people don't know much about, but they're pinning a lot on him. Now this is the image and the dimensions everyone believes. This is in encyclopedias, schools, universities, and it shows the diameter around 13,000 kilometers. That's a lot of curvature to get through, you know? And what I did, I started researching spherical trigonometry to work out curvature, and I worked out that this is the correct one. Now from the observer, the first mile drops 8 inches, and the second mile drops 32 inches. It gets squared because we live on a ball and not a slope, and it keeps getting squared. Now, if this is correct, which everyone thinks it is, then this is correct. So in 100 miles of walking along the Earth, one would have dropped 6,666 feet. It's quite a lot of curvature. In 10 miles, one would have dropped 66 feet. One scientist I spoke to said I was wrong, this is wrong, and it's 8 inches per mile. Full stop. And I sent him this and told him he lived on a pyramid and he should really give up science and take up golf or something. Now, curvature is really the main thing, one of the easiest things to grasp with the flat Earth model. What you can see is a lot of people with amateur rockets and amateur balloons are going up, and things look very flat. And in this photo you can see the sun doesn't really look 93 million miles away. Some more horizons looking very flat. The interesting thing here is the horizon is still at eye level. Now imagine you're a flea on a basketball. It's quite hard to imagine, but try. And you're a jumping flea and you jump up on top of the basketball. The horizon would go down. It would not stay at eye level. So if the flea jumps like 5 inches up, the horizon's going to drop. This doesn't happen on our Earth. Some more pictures of flat horizon. Of course, these are just images, so you have to do your own research. This is Chicago last week from Lake Michigan. One could see the Chicago skyline from 60 miles away. This isn't possible. It should be below the horizon. Now, a lot of this footage we see from NASA and other people up there, big corporations like Red Bull, they're using a GoPro lens to curve the Earth. Obviously, that curvature we see on the picture now isn't really possible at that height. This is just Photoshop garbage. Again, the very strange curvature using the GoPro lens. And we can see with a GoPro lens corrector, everything starts to look flat again. Also, a 100-mile long bridge in China doesn't have any compensation for curvature. Also, when planes fly, they don't really keep dipping the nose down, do they? So it would really fly against the edge of space, into the edge of space. Also, long railways in India, they don't have any engineering for the curvature. Now, a couple of weeks ago, and I did a blog about this on Wakey Wakey, I was in Almeria at the national park, and I went for an early morning stroll, and I could see Algeria. And I filmed it, thinking this was a bit odd. And I got home and saw it was 95 miles away. And I did some quite simple mathematics and realised it should have been 2 kilometres below the horizon. Okay. Mediterranean Sea. It's probably like 40 miles long, pretty flat. Little boat, hello boat. I don't know if you can see on the horizon, Morocco over there. My finger looks fat because I've zoomed. You can see Morocco. We're in like Almeria. So Morocco's around here, you can see it. We shouldn't be able to see it. Is the world visible? Now, with the Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, one would have thought you could take off in a helicopter, hover for an hour, land at a different space, a few hundred miles away. But what mainstream science tells us is all the air's rotating as well, all the atmosphere. So even if a breeze is going the other direction to the spin, that breeze is still moving 1,000 miles an hour. And if wind moves air molecules a little bit north, a few, 10, 20 miles north, it'll be moving at a different speed. This doesn't really add up and needs a bit of research and contemplation. It just doesn't make sense. Also, when we're young, we're shown this image. There's a lot of molten lava in the middle of the earth. But no one's ever drilled more than 8 miles down. Humans don't have the technology to do that. So you're looking at something you're never going to see. And that's the power of image. It just goes right into the subconscious. This is quite interesting as well. So the Earth rotates 360 degrees every 24 hours. That's something everyone agrees with in the mainstream model. And that we go around the sun. But if that was the case, 6 months later, we'd be the other side of the sun. And still rotating 360 degrees in 24 hours. Therefore, midday should be dark and midnight should be bright light. This again might need a little bit of thought and contemplation, but it can't really be argued with. Let's have a little look into NASA. Now, they get 8 billion tax a year or so, and they're a government agency linked a lot to Freemasonry and Project Paperclip after World War II. I won't talk about the red serpent tongue there because I'm trying to stay away from too much conspiracy until later on in this. Now, NASA obviously you know the moon landings were a hoax. If you don't, then just click X and go and do something else with your day. I mean, you can see the moon's edge from 20 meters away. No stars. This is a Stanley Kubrick movie, if you do your research. There we go. It's probably something more like that. And this is the image NASA give us. This is the image you see all over the place, encyclopedias, school walls, Google Images. And this image is from the 70s, from the Apollo missions. Now, there's no stars, no equatorial bulge, and there's no evidence of spin. It's quite a high technology camera that no one else has got to capture that shutter speed. There is one bit of spinning footage from NASA, a 12-hour time lapse, but it doesn't show the clouds moving, which is very odd because clouds don't stay still for 12 hours. So we haven't got any footage of the Earth spinning, even though there's the Hubble telescope, we're told, a space station and 20 to 30,000 satellites. Very strange. And no one can feel the spin. Well, we can feel earthquakes pretty well, but we can't feel the Earth spinning. Very, very odd. Here's a picture of the galaxy. Yeah, everyone believes that. And we live around the edge on the outer arm. You know, and not just a planet amongst another 100 million other planets like us, in billions of other galaxies like us. Middle of nowhere, random from a big bang. That's what we're told with these images. Here we are again. Obviously no camera's ever been out that far. Here we go, there's a nebula quasar thing going on. Everyone believes that. This is quite interesting that we can see planes around here, around this area, this amount of altitude. They look quite small in the sky, but people believe they can see satellites the size of a car higher than the top of this picture, higher than 140 kilometers, because many satellites are said to be 200-300 miles up. So I don't know what sort of Superman eyes people have got. They've got some transhumanist eye implants. Also, things that they say things go into space. I personally don't believe anything's been in space. And I don't even believe space exists. But there's a high temperature, 70, 80 degrees around here, around 87 miles up. And no one's really explained how things are getting out of that heat. Here's the shuttle. Again, some crazy curvature. It's warped the picture so much that this lid's got a little bit warped. This is a funny one. This is the shuttle docking with the space station. Both going 64,000 miles an hour around the sun and 3,000 miles around the Earth. When I spoke to a scientist, he said this was due to clever thrusters. I said, surely a vacuum, the vacuum of space, would suck out all the fuel where there's an opening, where the thrusters are. And he got a bit upset because it was his life definition to be a scientist. We can also talk about spacewalks, can't we? Why would they put all the cables on the outside? Why would all these things need fixing? And how if you study spacewalks, you're really looking at underwater footage. You see a lot of bubbles in the helmets of a lot of spacewalks. And NASA actually use a training swimming pool. These are the satellites, 20, 30,000. None of them hit each other. None of them hit the space station. And none of them take any photos of the Earth. Unless you believe the weather after the news. Okay, here's a satellite, yeah, with its ray gun. That's real. If you go on Google Images, look at satellites, you're just going to find loads of Photoshop. I mean, who took that photo? So there was another satellite behind this one. Yeah, there we go. And if you look at GPS, this is a US military system. TV and other things we think we use satellites for is easily done with radio antenna. It's all done on the ground, unless you believe images like that. There's another one, bit of Photoshop. Nice thin aerials on that satellite. And that one's not CGI. That's a painting, isn't it? That's a painting. We come to the Hubble, wrapped in tin foil. It's been up there, what, 10 years? It takes photos of quasars, nebulas, dwarf stars imploding, but never turns around and takes a picture of the Earth. No pictures of the moon. Kind of strange. Because it doesn't exist. It's a big lie. I've done an article about Mars. I've gone into that, and I've also gone into a mission they're doing to Pluto. It's complete nonsense. Here you can see some duct tape to make sure it works properly. There's another crazy image. It looks more like a desert near California. Look at these images. What is going on there? And look at the tires on this image. Yep, that looks real. In the background, you can clearly see some of Earth with a bit of an orange hue in Photoshop. And they say they're going to colonize Mars soon. More CGI Photoshop. This is interesting. There's a great movie online called, I think it's called Mars Curiosity Rover and the $1 Billion Video. And it shows this press conference, especially this guy, Adam Shelter or something. I mean, you've got to watch this video. This guy's an actor. They're all actors, but this guy, this is something else.
Seriously, is that not cool or what? Woo! So that rocked. Seriously, is that not cool or what? Woo! And is that Mount Sharp, or what can I see there, and all kinds of stuff. And so he's got the keys pretty soon. Not quite yet, but pretty soon he'll have the keys. Say something profound.
I am terribly humbled by this experience. I forever, secretly, have felt that I do not deserve to be in the position of leading the team that I lead, because they are certainly in sum and largely by count of individual more capable than I. Soup to nuts. And I think that this nation is a truly great representation of a corner or a piece of humanity that reaches out and explores and conquers and engineers. We are kind of tool makers, agriculturalists, pioneers, and that's reflected in the activities and actions and results of tonight. So I want to say thank you to the blue shirts. Certainly this beautiful theater of tonight, the drama of us all being able to experience it together, unrivaled in the experience for all of us. And with that, really, I have nothing more to say. That picture says it all for me.
Adam, tell us about the landing.
All right, Greg. I can't tell you too much about it. I mean, it looks good. I'm being a little flip. In short, it looked extremely clean. We touched down in conditions that were on the more benign side of our nominal expectation. By the way, I want to preface everything. This is preliminary data scooped with the sieve in the cacophony of the control room during the celebration, right? And largely by my good friend Miguel San Martin, who's somewhere out there, I hope. At any rate, very nominal, remarkably good. Our navigation error was on the low side of our expectation, which meant that we probably had a good alignment between the celestial sensors and the inertial sensors, the IMU. Our powered flight appears to have been excellent. If my good friend Ben Toma is in the House.
This whole press conference is a big key to exposing NASA. When you come to the space station, yeah, that looks real. Where there's no showers, no ability to do laundry, people's bones are deteriorating, the muscles are deteriorating, you're in a tin can with your life on the edge, but everyone's really happy. I mean, they play the guitar up there, when you do a live link up to the space station, they're like eating jelly babies and playing with zero G, which is all really done in a NASA aeroplane at high altitude, piloted a certain way to create the odd half a minute of zero G. I recommend a video online called ISS Hoax. The International Space Station does not exist. There we go, look at that. Ethical with the solar panels. Yeah. But keeps needing fuel to be taken up to it. Now if you look at it through a telescope, all you're going to see is this. It flickers a lot as well and warps a little bit. It's very odd. What this is probably is a high altitude drone with a big plasma screen or a hologram. And this technology exists. Here's a astronaut with the funny shape of the Earth around her arm. Apparently we live on an octagon. These images are just nonsense. So there's another key as well to the flat Earth. I mean, people believe the Pacific Ocean's a big ball, a big curve of water. Water never ever curves. It always finds its lowest and horizontal point. So no one else can replicate this curve of water anywhere. Eric DeBay's done a really good article on this, if you're interested, at theatlanteanconspiracy.com. What's happening now is people are worshipping science, especially like males. They're like, oh, I'm clever, I know some numbers, and I can repeat science, and I get science updates on my tablet, blah, blah, blah. But when you get deep into the nonsense of gravity and relativity, you just come to these brick walls of crazy formula that only mad mathematical professors can understand. Now, these do make sense. The ball Earth model is a working model, but it doesn't mean it's true. Children today are getting conditioned early with all these space books. My first book of space travel, Kids in Space, Space Cop Zach. It's kind of sad. They even get the Evolving Darwin playset, because Darwinism, atheism and science are religion, have become a religion. They're being worshipped and they're being thrown into children at a very young age. In my first book 7-8 years ago that's free to download, I did a big section on Darwin the man, exposed things like this, where he said, to suppose that the eye could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree. Now, it's obviously true that if humans went to live somewhere very cold, in 3 or 4 generations we're going to develop DNA that can handle that a bit better. But it doesn't mean we come from sea bacteria. In this image looks like we actually come from sea snot. Yeah, right. A lot more people are coming out and are exposing Darwinism for what it is. But it all creates atheism. I don't want to get too far into religion, spirituality in this talk, but let's have a look at atheism. The belief there was nothing, and nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing magically exploded for no reason, creating everything, and then a bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which then turn into dinosaurs. I personally have some questions about dinosaurs, but that's not for today. Now we've looked at sort of debunking some of the ball Earth, but when we say the word flat Earth to someone, this sort of image comes into their mind, or this image. You know? It's nonsense. Ah, what? Where's the edge? You fall off the edge. People have been around the world. Da 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 da. It's a bit like if someone says the word clock to you, the image from your mum's clock when you were a kid, or the clock at school comes into your mind. It's just what comes out of the subconscious. But the model isn't this. We have the North Pole in the middle. Antarctica is all around the outside. The sun and the moon are pretty much the same size and act as like spotlights. The sun moves in an outer spiral and an inner spiral, creating the seasons. Hence, it's always hotter at the equator, what we know as the equator. Magnetic north is always the North Pole, and magnetic south always pushes you out to the Antarctic. Another view of this, simplistic view. This is circumnavigation. You get yourself a little boat, get yourself on the BBC, sail around. Yeah, I went around the world. No, you didn't. You sort of didn't. This is a map of the flat Earth. This sort of map will be growing in the coming years. Here's a photo, we're told, from NASA of Antarctica. And another one. I mean, that's not real, is it? I mean, really. And another one. I mean, you see better things in Hollywood, you know. So Antarctica, in the early 1900s, a lot of boats went missing and some people's instruments went a bit crazy, and they said they followed ice wall for hundreds, if not thousands of miles. This sort of information has been recorded. And if you go to Antarctica now, you'll find the whole area protected and locked down. It's run by the Antarctica Treaty, I think from the 1950s. And you can't fucking breathe there. There are military and there are science operations. This is where the Antarctica Treaty hang out. A bit of an ice wall surrounding the Earth there. A bit of a pyramid with a capstone cut off. Oh, getting a bit conspiratorial now. Better rein it in. So if you really want to go to Antarctica, you can only really go there from these 3 points, and it's completely controlled by a tourist operator, a pyramid system really, that links to the treaty, the countries in the treaty. Now I phoned them up and said, oh, me and my mates are super rich, we're going to go to Antarctica from India and Hawaii. And we got loads of money and we got all the kit, so we'll be there soon. And I got hammered with loads of emails saying, no you don't, where's your permit, fill out these forms, who are you? I mean, this place is locked down, for real. You can go there from these 3 places and you can look at some penguins, take a few photos and off you go. And it'll cost you 10 grand for the luxury. So, you want to fly from Australia to Africa or South America? You'd fly these routes, wouldn't you, on a ball Earth? These routes don't exist. They say because Antarctica's too cold. But you can fly over Canada, Sweden, Siberia. But you can't do these flights because it's not possible. So then you'd think, okay, maybe you can do these flights. These aren't possible either. If you go on the flight sites, you will see these sort of flights you want going through Asia, Dubai, LA, and you end up with flights more like this, that are the shortest way on a flat Earth. But in these flight listings, there are hoax flights. They'll say, oh, direct, South America to South Africa, hugging Antarctica. But you go and try and book it and get back to me. Oh, all the seats are full. This is another key. This is Polaris, the North Star. And with time-lapse photography, you can see that, well, people think the Earth's spinning, but really, in the flat Earth model, it's the stars spinning around a stationary Earth. Now, if we were on a ball Earth going around the sun, 6 months later, we'd be millions and millions of miles away. But you can still take the same photo. What mainstream science says to answer this is that the stars are so far away that our millions and millions of miles movement over 6 months around the sun doesn't register because it's so tiny in comparison. This is a rather convenient answer to something very real we can see with our eyes. Also, most people believe that the sun is 400 times bigger and 400 times further away than the moon, and that an eclipse, where they appear the same size, is Just a coincidence, really. This is a bit strange. And the old alchemists always drew pictures with the sun and the moon the same size. Now the moon's an interesting one. I'll try and cover a little bit quickly. The moon does its phases no matter what the earth and the sun are doing. It doesn't care. It doesn't care for where the earth is or where the sun is. The moon does its phases. Also, you could be in any part of the world or another part of the world, it will be new moon or full moon. It does what it does. The moon is self-illuminating. It is not reflecting light from the sun. Sunlight is gold, warm, dry, preserving, and decreases combustion in a bonfire. The moon is silver, cool, damp, putrefying, and increases combustion in a bonfire. Animals and plants react very differently to moonlight and sunlight. But the moon is a big study. I'll just leave that there. And with the ancients, they all talked about flat earth. In Hebrew, in Israel, ancient Israel, Egypt, Maya, Aborigine, India, all around the world. And that's a picture from Egypt of a very ancient goddess, Nuit, from maybe 8000 BC. We can pick her up. This is Norse mythology. Hinduism. This is Genesis. This calls this the firmament in the Bible in Genesis, but in the Hebrew version it actually says the word dome or ceiling. Quite interesting. This is sort of biblical stroke Quranic. This is Buddhism, where it talks of Mount Meru. I've recently done an article on Wakey Wakey about this. You'll find Mount Meru in many different places around the East in ancient text. It talks about a mountain in the middle, going up to the spiritual realms, and rings of mountains and ocean, and 4 continents. This is the same picture again, the celestial worlds, Mount Meru, a flat disk with 4 continents, with rings of mountain and ocean. This is Japanese Buddhism. You'll find this sort of meme in Japanese, Chinese, Thai Buddhism. And Buddha actually said the world was flat in one of the sutras, but modern Buddhism has actually changed that and disregarded it. So the ball earth is looking a bit lame. It's like it's going to get punctured soon. No one's ever seen it from that point of view. How do you know? But then people say, well, I don't really care if it's flat or round. It doesn't affect me. I've heard this a lot. But it changes a lot. Atheism will crumble. Respect for the education system and governments will crumble. Taxpayers will revolt. And if you're the centre of everything, and all the celestial worlds are going around humans on this beautiful piece of nature, things become a bit more amplified. People become a bit more careful about their lives. Their self-worth will change. If you're new to this flat earth theory, the flat earth model, then it's probably better just to click off, because I'm going to go into a little bit of theory, symbolism and speculation, which I want to make clear. I'm theorizing and I'm speculating. And this is really a place for people who are already on board with the flat earth and are looking into the edges of this model and different theories. Because if we can't trust the governments, the banks, the education system, or the books on the shelves at the library, then everything's up for grabs. This is the globalists map. The UN, the ultimate globalists, are using a flat earth map. Very interesting. This is the Truman Show, a movie where a guy works it out and gets to the edge. He's living a boring life, sort of with a housewife, job, and he sort of works it out and gets to the edge. This is Game of Thrones, very popular. The big ice wall that they guard, and some people went through and found another world. This is one of my personal favourite films, Dark City. It was around the same time as The Matrix, but didn't gain as much popularity. This shows a guy who works it out and finds the edge of a flat Earth, a flat city. This is a picture Google did on Earth Day. These are the Illuminati cards talking about flat earthers know something, and the movie set for NASA. It's interesting. 9/11, where they, the people we know in America and Israel, they knocked down the Twin Towers. At the subway now, or what they call Ground Zero, is this picture. An eye in the middle of a flat earth. It looks like this. Why would that be there? I'll look a little bit into, this is Tibetan law, going back to the Buddhists really. This again looks at the 4 continents. But what it has is 3 bits of land in each continent. And a lot of these ancient texts say we only live in the southern continent. This is another view where these ancient Buddhist texts say we live in Jambudvipa. This is another view saying we live on a flat disk where the humans live, but cut off to our senses are the underworlds and the higher worlds. And this sort of step pyramid shown in other ways. There's again humans on a flat disk. And step pyramids are seen all around the world. Is this related? This picture we saw before, and again we're seeing 3 bits of land in each of the 4 continents. Is it true that maybe there's other bits of land? Is this what they're protecting? Where do these 140,000 children that go missing every year go to? I mean, the paedophile rings can only play with 1,000 or so. Where's the 139,000 children? I mean, what is going on? This is Plato's Atlantis. Now, most people don't believe in Atlantis or even know about it, but a lot of people think Atlantis was a place, a utopian civilization with high tech, probably before 20,000 BC, 15,000 BC. But it's always described as being rings of land and water. Maybe Atlantis wasn't a place, it was the whole gig. Again, just theorizing and speculating. This is something I looked at in quite a long blog I did. It's called Flat Earth Galactic Center and the Dark Rift, and it's on wakeyWakey.com. Obviously, this isn't galactic center anymore in the Flat Earth model. This is a sort of rip in the sky, in our ceiling stroke sky, in the celestial stars that come across us. There are stories all around the ancient world where in the Maya, Egypt, I mean you can go everywhere, Aborigine again, Vedic, where this opens up like a scroll or parts and a new sun comes out, or a cataclysm occurs, or a reset of sorts occurs. I looked into this very deeply, and it's about an hour's worth of reading where I collated all this information. And Scorpio and Sagittarius both point here. The sting of Scorpio and the sharp bow of Sagittarius both point to this spot. Is this a coincidence? We could also look at chemtrails. Why are they blocking the sun? I mean, a lot of New Age narcissists think, oh, it's all for me. They're dropping metals on me. But if they want to get to you, they're just going to do you through the food and water. And the New Age, agents in the New Age saying, oh, don't think about the past or future, just do nothing and be in the now. This sort of easy, tangible, do nothing doctrine that's rife. If you get up early in the morning on sort of a chemtrail day, you can see they're just bombing in front of the sun. They're blocking the sun. Are they delaying something? I mean, some guy I know thought something was going to happen in 2012 and thinks that it's been delayed from chemtrails. This is our moon as well. Now, maybe this is an old malfunctioning sun. It goes the same speed as the sun nearly. It's around the same size. It's a near identical path in the sky. If you read manuscripts 3.5 or look at Jain cosmology, it starts to carry some weight, and it's something I'm going to be looking into as a part of my theory list. But one thing's for sure with all this flat earth information that's going to grow and grow, is going to divide people, families, friends, the truth movement. I hate that word. But we're in the age of revealing, and division creates some friction. Sometimes the sword, to sharpen the sword, you need friction from the stone. Maybe it's just a natural thing. But you have to do your own investigation to find the truth. No matter, under insults, under pressure of a big groupthink belief system, we all sort of have a duty to find the truth when we start to see lies. Because there's no smoke without fire. One thing's for sure, this beautiful divine Fibonacci code that runs through nature, this isn't from sea bacteria. This is high intelligence. This isn't random. It's not possible for it to be random. If you're interested in this subject and some of the articles about flat earth, or some of the things I'm theorising and playing with, head towards wakey.com. I'm sure you'll find something of interest there. We're in a time of universal deceit. Telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Okay, thank you for your time. Enjoy.